present us again. So Alessandro is going to start. Thank you.
And could you please, one small ask, could you, oh yes, thanks.
Alessandro?
Yes. Good morning. I'm Alessandro Meloni, PhD student in architecture at the University of Genoa. Today, we will present an introduction on the visual and multisensory perception of space. We will talk about the two different aspects, perception and multi-perception in the training of architects, and accessibility and representation. Architect Juani Pallasma emphasized that multisensoriality is the aspect that allows architecture to take on poetic meaning, thus allowing its aesthetic characteristics to be fully appreciated. So, multisensoriality can widen the vocabulary of architectural design to reflect the complexity of reality that manifests itself through different sensory sources: visual, tactile, sounds, and so on. We can also consider sensation of proprioception and balance that connect our body with the space. It remains certain that the sense of sight plays the main role in the recognition of spatial qualities. For this reason, it is necessary to mention essential knowledge about the physiology of vision, such as the functioning of the eye and the main characteristics of binocular vision. It is curious to note that for the reading of details, the field of vision is reduced to an amplitude of 5 degrees. It is necessary to resort a constant movement of the eye to be able to explore the context as a whole. We can observe this in eye tracking studies that records the movement of the gaze, of which we show an example here. In addition to the physiology of vision, it is necessary to define notions regarding the theories of interpretation of the process of visual perception, in which the Gestalt theory, or theory of form, based on its 7 principles. For example, for the law of proximity, we can recognize objects that are close to one another as a group. And we have the same effect if they are similar shape or color, and so on. The important is that we perceive an object not as a single thing, but in its context. Within the perceptual process of space, the role of the context in which image is placed is fundamental importance. Perspective laws, for example, have greatly influence in the perception of space. There are scientific experiments on optical deception related to the reading of space. Among these is the evocative room designed by Adalbert Ames in 1946, with its spatial shape deformed in such a way that if brought back the parallelepiped form, it let appear the objects and people containing it deformed. The better images are more easily distinguishable and therefore memorable This implies an easier recognition not only of the objects, but also of the space. In architecture, these factors can be developed and applied for a more intuitive interpretation of architectural environments, allowing users not only to experience the space independently, but also to read its spatial qualities. Paul Mixenar believes that architecture plays a fundamental role in the reading of space and orientation within it. This thought is strongly visible in his project for Amsterdam Airport. The project includes a complete system of maps and signals that are supported by the use of shapes and colors associated with the different functions. This greatly facilitates the orientation process as it defines fundamental references for pursuit of the objective of autonomous use of space. We can also recognize that visual sensations are associated with tactile and sound devices that create multisensory perceptions that can be useful not only for people with disabilities. For example, in case of emergency, the sound could help visual sign in calling the attention. And through memory, then, it is possible to reconjure objects and spaces that our visual sensation translate into a perception capable of communicating a content. For example, the vision of a cave can be an opportunity for exciting exploration, as you can see in this video. But the same cave, thanks to the use of sound integration, can be a place of fear and anxiety. This is a part of our references about the perception of space. And now I can hand over to Cristina.
Thank you. Considering the topics just discussed by Alessandro, the question for us could be, as architects and teachers, what can we do to develop inclusivity? Bill Hillier, one of the founders of Space Syntax, an architectural research movement, stressed the importance of architecture as a tool to shape the society which we live in. So we think it is important to teach how to give to architecture a shape to transform it into an appropriate scenography for an inclusive society. And this was one of the goals for the course of representation methodologies for the architectural project in the Master of Architecture at the University of Genoa. And this video shows a 360 degrees photo taken during a starting off exercise proposed to simulate temporary disabilities by the same students. This in order to develop an empathic attitude. And we did something similar the year before, thanks to Paula Trigueiros, University of Minho, Portugal. It is well known that spatial perception differs between individuals because of various characteristics and experience too, or gender, but it seems that most of architects go on ignoring this. But as José Saramago said in his essay on lucidity, the time always comes when we discover that we knew much more than we thought. Alessandro, I don't know what are you doing, but
okay.
Yeah, all right.
Sorry.
I believe it would be better if this time arrived during the training period. Today, however, we would like to talk about what we call the theory of multi-perception that we discussed in depth during a cycle of lessons about multisensory and inclusion. The fundamental concept is that architects should not solely be concerned with the functional accessibility of architecture, but also with allowing all the people to enjoy its spatial characteristics. A space is naturally recognizable both in visual and tactile ways. We all know that a stick can allow a blind person to identify a vertical surface to obtain a functional information, the edge of a sidewalk. But with the help of some sensations, knowledge of further spatial qualities can also be refined. For example, in an urban space, the sounds of footsteps or traffic are reflected differently as a function of the extension of vertical surfaces. In this way, one can discover the formal characteristics of the space useful to building a cognitive image of it. Sounds, therefore, allow to recognize space and to imagine it. And this also happens not only to blind people, if only one pays a little attention. And I always find it very touching to hear testimonies of connection between music and architecture that many of us have experienced when listening all kinds of music. Among the countless testimonials about this, I would like to cite Ezio Bosso, a well-known composer and orchestra conductor who died in 2020 at the age of 48. We often remember him for his clear vision of disability shown by his famous statement, "I am a man with an evident disability among many men with an unseen disability." But Bosso should also be remembered for his poetic view and his capacity to explain it to everyone. He highlighted how music always involves a spatial consideration, also generated by the position of different instruments in the space and by their way of producing their power of sound. With this in mind, we proposed to our students an exercise of architectural representation of a project in an area of the historic center of Genoa. It's a pity we are not here to see, because it's very close to our department. Here you have seen the volume of one of the pavilions designed by some students. And here is a short video focusing on the materials and their sound characteristics, in this case, illustrating the differences occurring along the floor. Different students worked on tactile or sound characteristics of space and architecture. The final presentation of the projects took place in the presence of a commission of teachers with a blind person too. He recognized the effectiveness of the effort made in the task to consider not only the physical characteristics of accessibility, but also the perceptive ones. This is thanks to multisensory contents. And For the second part of this brief presentation, we move to talk about representation and accessibility in cultural heritage. We are going to show some research done from the University of Genoa about its architectural heritage that we considered in the sense of accessibility. We developed some of this research in the RiseWise Marie Curie project, coordinated by Cinzia Leone, that you are going to meet her later, and in the University of Genoa research project, Inclusive Architectural Representation. We are going to show a case study linked to paths and images for architectural heritage, and the purpose is to identify methods of visual communication which facilitate accessibility to buildings. As a case study, we are showing the Palace of University of Genoa, another beautiful place in Genoa. The palace was a Jesuit collegium built in the 17th century, and now is home to the Chancellor's offices and the departments of laws and political sciences. Here you can see its courtyard and the loggias. And in particular, we choose a special room, the sundial room, at the second floor of the building to show two different kinds of accessibility, the virtual and the real. As for virtual accessibility, we hypothesize that a place, the sundial room in this case, cannot be reached because of accessibility reasons, but it could also happen for conservation causes. To provide remote information about the place, we can build a virtual model which provides a virtual view, able in part to replace a real visit. Or we can obtain high-resolution panorama photos with a digital full-frame camera and a rotating panoramic head. The sundial room was the internal library of the former Jesuit Collegium, and now is the place where degree ceremonies are held along with the other events. And you can discover now, as a lot of Genoese people do not know, the presence of a rare kind of historical scientific instrument, the sundial, in fact. Panorama photo allow you to rotate for 360 degrees around, on left, on right, and up to the ceiling, as everyone knows. And the sundial, and you can also zoom and see the detail of the marble and brass line on the floor. The sundial works with the help of a hole that projects the sun image on the line. It lets measure the exact time and some astronomical phenomena. And this is another virtual model obtained by photogrammetric techniques. It appears very realistic, and you can explore it in a virtual way too. And now we are start talking about what we call real accessibility. It is not so easy to walk in an historical building, but in this case, we can reach the place. We can only think how we can let people do it in the easier way possible. It is possible. Let me see. This was a brief video we done in the RiseWise project with Sabrina D'Apino, Alessandra Fabri, me, and Alessandro Castellano. People with disability face inadequate information regarding problems of accessibility and their solution. They do not know if they need to be accompanied to reach a place, and this is a big problem for them. On the contrary, it would be useful to prefigure the path, to know what you can find in the place you are going to visit, also to be warned if the accessibility conditions change. Before moving on, it is appropriate to mention briefly the scientific basis of wayfinding, a process that can be summarized in 3 stages of knowledge: recognition of the significant elements of a path, identification of a route, the round trip, and global representation of the space. But what happens if we cannot see in a proper way and reality appears blurring, as of course to many of us without glasses? And what happens again if even visual science stops to be elements on which to base one's perceptions of space? We all know that tactile maps are sometimes available to explain orientation to blind people. And we can also have the help by good scientific literature about tactile perception and communication of space for blind people. As Kevin Lynch said in The Imager of the City, spatial orientation is generated through the creation of an environmental image, which puts together in an organized framework specific information regarding the place, along with reference to past experience of the user. We know much more than in the past about the wayfinding principles. And we are going to show our proposal. In order to make the space more accessible, we integrated the maps of the location with sequences of images of the route to help prepare a visit by users with mobility impairment, which want to attend courses or participate in cultural events or simply visit our unique sundial room. Additional interactive content describes the architecture and its historical artistic importance and provides supplementary information about accessibility. We can use videos or audio subtitle messages, which can be experienced on site or remotely, and they could also help people with sensory disabilities. In this diagram, you can have an overview of the materials that can be organized in the device and their function. And we conclude with this thought that we should ask ourselves for whom we strive to create sophisticated images or historical architecture, virtual models or high-resolution images. We do it for it's our job. But we should try to extend the knowledge of our treasures to a greater number of people. And I want to thank with Alessandro, all of you, especially the Ukrainian Jean Monnet unit and the organizer, Diana. Thank you. We are here. If you want to ask something, it will be a pleasure for us.
А теперь вопросы, если у вас есть. Можете спрашивать любые вопросы, даже потом, как они делают курсы, какие курсы они предвидят для того, чтобы сделать архитектуру доступной для всех. Потому что профессорица Кандида, она занимается этим, у нее очень многие проекты по этому поводу, так что... Она кратко рассказала о их проекте, да, как вы видите.
Thank you very much, dear Christina. Thank you very much, dear Alessandro. Special thanks for visualization in 7 pictures of Gestalt theory. I'm a psychologist and I'm devoted to Gestalt theory in my Doctor of Sciences degrees, about 10 pages and just one scheme. It's brilliant visualization. Thanks, really. It's very interesting for me, first of all, because my scientific field of my scientific research, cognitive research. I'm Doctor of Science in Philosophy of Science, and my theme was cognitive research. And I wrote many things about architecture because it's deeply connected with our cognitive system in whole, really in whole, and we are connected with our body, embodiment architecture, embodiment approach to architecture, cognitive architecture. So it's really interesting. Architecture is art and science which are determine our bodies, our cognition, our perception. It's I'll try to translate into English. Double causality, cycle causality. Our body determines our architecture determines our bodies, and we are deeply connected and interacted with them. I feel this connection between my flat, my home, my house, I mean, and home space also. But what can we do without budget? In our university, our NPDU, National Pedagogical and Dragomanov University, it's old building in the center of Kiev with huge stairs. And I remember the visit of monitoring mission from Erasmus Plus office to the previous project of Erasmus Plus Tempus. It was about the geriatric dimension, and 5th floor with round stairs. Наталья Васильевна, Наталья Васильевна рассказывает о том, как мы на 5-м этаже нашего инклюзивного, вот когда к Нестеренко поднимались. And without any possibilities to construct sort of elevator.
National Erasmus Office, они об этом рассказывали почти всем. Voglio dire che anche l'ufficio nazionale Erasmus hanno detto che hanno messo il centro per i disabili sopra, al 5º piano sono scala a chioccia.
But fortunately, our inclusive faculty is a separate building. It's separate with wide, specialized for persons with disability. But I think it's we discussed it yesterday. It should be a sort of change in mindset to include others. To think from the part of others, and something are changing to better in Kiev. We discussed yesterday with our Ukrainian partners. It's coming from United States and Europe, interpreters of nature, interpreters of culture, and now in Kiev many tours. Walk together with blind guide to feel, or museum when you can spend 2 hours absolutely in dark, 2:30 a.m. To feel this absolutely new experience, and it's very interesting. And outside of University of Genoa, are there any initiatives to help healthy, excuse me for this not polite, persons with abilities, full abilities, to feel living together with a person with disabilities? And what could you recommend to us? I mean, in Ukraine without any governmental support. No, there is governmental support. Excuse me, I'm pessimistic today. I'm starting from pessimistic, turning to optimistic way. Sorry, today I will drink a cup of coffee. I will get in optimistic. So, any quick, simple solution or your first steps on this way? Not from architecture, from educational management, yeah, and from psychology. I mean, in the sense of involving students, administrators, educators, teachers. Yeah.
Thank you, Maria. Can I answer for us, Alessandro? Can I speak? Because I would like to thank Maria, first of all, because yes, I'm a little bit ashamed to talk about this very large problem that is the psychology of perception of the space, but naturally I am not an expert. You are an expert, and now you are going to give me your publication about this, but the most important thing for us as architects and teachers is to make students feel this problem, because this go with the problem that you asked at the end of your question, because I am pessimistic too in this period. Alessandro knows this, but what I hope is that if we share experiences, especially with young people, students, naturally, and we try to solicit emphatic attitude, try to understand what people with every kind of disability can feel, and also understand that all of us can feel something like this in some moments of our life. Probably we can understand better, and we can face in our profession that architects are a key profession in this field, and try to go on. Naturally, I can understand that in your university you face with the same problem we have in Genoa, because we have a very important cultural heritage and old monuments that we appreciated a lot, but it's very difficult to have what I call the real accessibility everywhere, because there are very big problems about this. But yes, we can also think about virtual accessibility, try to reconstruct spaces, and we experienced a lot about this during this period, because all of us, we were at our home without the possibility to visit the museums and all the palaces and so on. So we know that this could happen to everyone. But our goals is to realize the real accessibility, naturally, because and we can also help this, let people know which kind of problem they have to face, because sometimes you don't plan to visit a palace or a museum because you have a disability, and you think, I cannot go there, so I need to move to ask help to a lot of people, and yes, it's too complicated, so I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to start studies, university studies, because I have to involve my parents or my brother and sister to accompany me and so on. So if you know the problem you have to face, probably you can think to yourself, yeah, it's difficult, but I can try to ask if they help me, I don't know, moving the classroom at the first floor or something like this. And at the same time, if us as a university, for example, as a public service, we document the problem, not the accessibility, but the problem that we have in our sites, we can also plan how to solve them gradually. This is the objective, to plan how to solve them, because we know that we cannot solve everything in one time. It's too expensive, and sometimes they told you, but yes, for one people in the wheelchair, we have to put a lift. Yes, but there is only one person, because there is not the lift. If we have the lift, probably more people can enroll in our courses, can come to visit our palaces. In Genoa, we are promoting a lot our heritage, because we have, I know, we are sorry you are not here physically. Because,
we're sorry too.
Yeah, but yes, I hope it will be a different occasion for us. And yes, we have very many art and in our palaces where we work and where we study. And in some 2 times a year, we open our palaces to all the people. And now it comes the problem, because for whom? In Genoa, there are a lot of elderly people. So accessibility problem is a reality. You cannot open and say not only for people that can walk very, very well.
Youngers and 30.
Yeah.
and not after COVID, because after COVID, your breathing is not in good condition, unfortunately, and long stairs. It's awful. It's also a problem. It's one of challenges post-pandemic world. By the way, excuse me for interrupting you.
No, but this is what I mean, that sometimes all of us can be pessimistic. And we are right, probably, because there's no a big interest in this field. We have to recognize it. The proof is apart of Alessandro, we are only women. And this means that there's no money in this. So, yeah. I heard
patterns of women's behavior. Yes, charming patterns. Thank you, Christine.
That's not an interest, an economical interest, but if we work in trying to explain to young people and to our administrators that we should go in this direction, I think that little things we can realize little things during our life, and we can hope in the next generation. So I'm very happy to be here with you talking about these things, and I know that you have the knowledge in different fields about inclusion and as a whole, not only for disabled people, but yes, I'm interested because I think that we need to have this vision, large vision about the problem. So Maria, please
Thank you.
at us.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I believe I share this absolutely. We have to start anyway, with money, with funding, with support, or without it, if we feel the necessity of these steps. And the best, I'm also very happy to be here because I believe that the best way of learning is changing from each other's. It's our evolutionary cognitive mechanism, our mirror neurons. I promise, I swear, that we will transfer your approach and your best practice to our universities. We will show, if you wouldn't mind, could you please share with us this link with video? We will show our administrators, our teachers, I promise that I will show this to our students, because my discipline, one of them, is social culture project management, European experience. And I know that we can launch this process of thinking, this process of advocacy of and these values of inclusion, really values of inclusion, showing people's how other Italian educators and students solved or tried to solve this problem, and it will boost, I think, it will boost this process of changes in our educational dimension. I mean, not only our university, because even here we're members were teachers from different educational institutions, the Institute of High Pedagogical Education, Elena Orgel, and Melitopol State Pedagogical University, Tamara Olena Troitska, National University of Life Education of Life Sciences, no less. Marina, don't kill me.
Oh, we lose Maria, I think.
Yes, yes.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Thank
While
you.
we're waiting that Maria is back. Thank you very much. It was really interesting presentation for me, a lot of new things. I would say, we all feel that there is some connection between music and architecture, or art and space, but we never come, at least in my experience, so close as to link it in our classes, in our courses. And my question is, Christina, at the end of your presentation, you asked a question, who are we designing our buildings for, if I remember correctly? And in this case, if we, at the beginning, at the initial stage of the design, start thinking about inclusion and how to make our buildings and our cities more accessible, then we probably have to go for more simplicity to avoid complex constructions and make it really, really simple. And my question is, if this is really the situation, where is the compensation? We, for instance, in Genoa, in Italy, where with your cultural heritage, simplicity will not work, in my understanding. So how do you compensate for this accessibility and simplicity in the form, still how to make it beautiful, to stick to the principles of aesthetics and self expression of the architect?
Yeah, this is a big challenge because architects, as every artist, I think, wants to be admired for their realization, naturally. So the complications sometimes could be a way to make people say, oh, very interesting, it's very complicated and difficult to understand, but now I can feel, but some people cannot explore the space because it's complicated, but it's something that is an abstract feeling, because creativity have always to face to challenges. In the past, we had the problem of have a little space for everyone to, I don't know, realize a house also for poor people, for example. And so this was a big challenge too. And with the creativity, people of the architects in the 20th century realized very interesting design, architectural design in the modernism context. Then, yes, in the middle of the century, we had to reconstruct after the Second War, and yes, there are a lot of economic interests that move the problem in another field. But the theory was good. The first realization were very interesting. So the artist, especially the architect, have always limits. So the problem is to understand the single problem, try to understand the context, and only try to understand that architecture is for everyone, not only for a perfect kind of people with the right age, with the right gender, or the right economical possibilities, and so on. So if you can go through this, it's not easy, and there's no one solution, but if you try to go into the problem, the architectural project problem, you can understand how to realize something that could be more inclusive. Also, without renouncing to the art. Alessandro is going to study this in his PhD research, and yes, he's studying 20th century project in museums, try to understand how people can understand the space and understand how to go into the space and try to have enjoy the feelings of the things that they can appreciate. I don't know, piece of art and something like this. But there's no one right solution. But we can see a lot of wrong solution in reality. So also very important firm of architecture realize architecture that are not useful for many kind of people with mobility impairment, or also in our time, and or people with cognitive disabilities too, because some kind of forms are not right for many kind of people. But I think that try to study something more about disciplines like perception, and try to understand the many kinds of perception we can have in different situations, could go in this direction. But yes, you touched one of I think that one of the key problems about this, because we don't want to renounce to be architects. So creators arts creators. It's only to be aware about the people that use our realization. Hi, Maria, you came back.
We're here.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Можно спросить, Диана?
Можно.
А как готовят архитекторов? Вот именно таких, вот как они рассказали, да? Это специальная школа, это довузовская подготовка, это специальная программа. Вот они могли бы рассказать структуру подготовки таких архитекторов, вот как Александр, например, да?
Chiedono sulla preparazione degli architetti inclusivi, diciamo, per l'architettura inclusiva o accessibile a tutti. Ci sono dei programmi prima dell'università, ci sono dei programmi dedicati a questo tema. Come si preparano? Qual è l'istruzione? Questa è la domanda.
Sorry, but we have to admit that we have not a special program and no program about this. This is the problem. I need to say that we are two families in our department, architecture and design. In the field of the design, there are some courses that go into this field. Design for All, probably you heard about this, is a field of studies very spread in the field of design. The problem is that in Italy, in architecture, there are very few program for architects and engineers, civil engineer. And this is one of our challenges too. Try to put this, inclusivity and accessibility contents in the preparation of architects. We reach one result, but unfortunately, it was not a success because of COVID. Because we planned to host last year people from the another educational organization that would come in our third degree course in architecture, but unfortunately because of COVID that they did not realize this brief course. But in future we are going to do something like this, because yes, it's important to think to talk about the perception. We believe in it, but yes, there are a lot of things that an architect have to understand. First of all, the laws, because if they work, they have to face with the rules that they met in the architectural project, and this is the basic level, we think. Then they have to understand how to develop their knowledge about disability, and this is something that go also with the great field of medical and architecture connection. That this is a tradition in our studies, but yes, it doesn't include now inclusion things. But in the future, I'm sure that we are going through this direction. And yes, at the end, we can talk about perception, so something that go in the creativity field and in the highest level of this problem. We have a lot of work to do. In Italy, there are some good experience, for example, in Milan, but only because people, professors with disability teach there. So this was the reason why they started to teach this kind of things. So personal, like us, personal thought that go in our courses. But yes, I think that the future is something that must go into this direction. I believe in it. I think it would not be a very fast phenomenon, but yes, we can go through this direction. We are going. Sorry, not very good news.
Grazie.
Is it possible to get these samples of your video rolics? Can we share your experience with our students? Sorry, I've been interrupted because of electricity. Was out. It was just improvement. Less words, more acts, correct acts. So yeah, I'll try to show our students of the discipline of the course social project management. I'm trying to involve them to implement some projects inside our university. We started this initiative from our partnership with British Council's Active Citizens program, and they even support by small grants successful projects, and we applied for many of these small projects starting from launch space for students, and we applied for healthy food in our dining place, restaurant, university restaurant. So I think it will be interesting for them to increase their social responsibility, personal social responsibility, and to improve their thinking on the way of inclusion. Maybe to be volunteers or to launch flash mob, because the theme of advocacy is very interesting for them. There are at least 3 or 4 projects today this year about very important topics: AIDS, COVID pandemic, bullying, no others. And I'd like to add inclusion, and as I told you, as the best way to show experience other successful projects. If you wouldn't mind, could you please via Diana, or you can show us this is if there are any open sources but for students, not for scientists. As scientists, again, yeah, but also I make pictures of your reference list, and it's very interesting for me if we can change our bibliography. Yes,
you can share
treasures.
I'm interested a lot about your study. I can understand that we can do something interesting together. Yes, I really appreciate your thought, and so I think you can naturally share the video. Yeah. And
two ways, thinking in the way of evolutionary epistemology, not only Gestalt as perception, but evolutionary epistemology, which are connecting our cognitive niche, our habitual niche, our niche of living as human beings with our cognitive abilities. And space is a key factor of our cognitive modeling. Because it's a separate, very interesting thing. Some specialists of artificial intelligence show me cognitive descriptions of our brain, of our way of thinking, only because of our power of Earth. Как бы сказать, сила земного притяжения, вверх-вниз, down, up and down. This vertical orientation up and down, you mentioned this in your presentation. It's extremely important factor of our brain development and our patterns of thinking. Only because of only this vertical orientation. If our world will be, so it's, excuse me, it's philosophical truth.
It's very interesting because I'm a little bit ashamed because yes, I know that we talk about things that are not strictly in our field. So it's important for us to understand something for you too. Because when we present Gestalt theory or something like this, we use it as architects do. Naturally, it's only a superficial knowledge of this. But I think that if we can share material, and I don't know, I can check also in other videos in this in our group. And if we can share experiences, I think that for our student is very important, because only go through an interdisciplinary field we can go on in this subject, because probably you know a lot of things about your field, and I know a lot of things in my field. But if we can only go on in this, we cannot understand much more.
Yes, in our multidisciplinary and even transdisciplinary studies. Yeah, and unfortunately, I've been out of communication, and to keep a gender balance, could you please, Alessandro, could you please explain what your first, your dreams on your way of your research? What will be your main idea, maybe a mission or social mission of your investigations?
My goal with my research is to extend the perception with all people. And I study a lot with blind people, and I speak a lot with this typology of person, because it's important to understand what is the information of the space for the different people.
Different channels of perception. Yeah. How they reconstruct the whole, yes.
Yes, because it's important understanding the different information for we want to understand for representation in a univocal method with different sources or tactile sounds and etc. For implement the qualities of the space. and my goal is this: the extend the possibility for all people. Yes, is my project for PhD project research, and I apply like explain Christina at the university at the museum architect, because are important for me, and this is one case for architect, and extend for all architect. I don't know if I answer.
Yes, he studied in Genoa because he cannot travel in this period, but he studied a museum in Genoa, and we are trying to develop studies with the eye tracking, as you seen, and other technologies, but in order to understand the behavior of visitors with or without disability, and try to understand the differences and how we can reach the same result in enjoying the space for different kind of people. So he's starting now the case study, because yes, we try to go on to the theory before, because I think it's important. And probably, Maria, you can help in this too.
Yes. The microphone.
The microphone
is off. Maria, your microphone is off.
It's a second sign, less words, because I always have something to say and some information on this matter. And I will send you also information about Transdisciplinary Congress in Mexico. It's very interesting initiative started together with Nicolescu. It's his theory of complexity and Edgar Morin, Nicolescu, interdisciplinary studies, and Edgar Morin, he's a French philosopher, maybe the famous modern one. His theory of complexity and terra patria, homeland earth, and now another project very interesting, homeland earth, started in Austria. Together with grounded by Edgar Morin ideas. It means this complex thinking in complexity, and complex thinking and holistic approach to our habitable space, about what really Earth is homeland. Our homeland, or terra, I'm sorry, terra on Latin, it's similar to Italian. Terra patria, terra patria, or terra patria.
Patria.
Yes. yes, excuse me, yes. And yeah, yes. Yeah, we can change this information. Many initiatives starting in many different places of our planet, and it's very good sign. Mixing social understanding of inclusion, cognitive, medical, psychology understanding of inclusion, perception, our health, living, well-being. Yes, it's very interesting. And thank you very much for this exciting presentation, visualization, and approach.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Yes, and there is one technical question. The next one, the floor is of Samantha Armani. But if you wouldn't mind, I cannot see the video of Samantha. Maybe we'll make a short break for 10 minutes, if you wouldn't mind, dear colleagues. На 10 минут, может, мы прервемся, если... Oh, Samantha, voice is
hello.
yours. Would you mind?
Yeah, okay, yes.
Yes, if you wouldn't mind, maybe 10 minutes, 11:30. Yes, because your presentation was exciting, very interesting. Just to rest and to feel fine at least.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, dear Christine. Thank you very much, dear Alessandra. Hopefully, we'll meet again together. In Genoa, in Kiev, or in Meet, or in Zoom, it doesn't really matter, but we're thinking in the same way. It's a great pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
See you later. So thank you.
See you later. Yes.
Да, алло. Добрый день. Да, пожалуйста, как хотите. Ну, страшного ничего. Присылайте, да. Да. Ну, хорошо, да, спасибо вам, да, до свидания.
Наталья Васильевна, у вас микрофон включен.
Выключаю, спасибо.
So we finished the break or not yet? Who is here?
We are here.
Okay.
I'm here.
Fine. So I hope the
But I can't turn on the camera now. So, but I'm here. I'm always here.
okay, fine, because we have had a little bit of break because now we pass from architectures from to, let's say, school field now. And Samantha Armani will talk to you only, say to you about migration vulnerabilities, intercultural approach for inclusive education. And as you remember,
Dear Samantha, hello.
Maria, я уже
Sorry,
здесь.
and Diana is here.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Mhm.
E, как я вам сказала уже во вторник, Саманта, dico un po' di parole su di te in russo così tutti capiscono. И как я вам сказала во вторник, Саманта преподаватель университета Генуи, но и учитель школы. Так что она вам расскажет про инклюзию с обеих точки зрения. Ho detto, Samantha, che tu sei sia un docente universitario che un docente per la scuola, cioè un insegnante nella scuola.
Okay.
Quindi sei proprio dentro il processo di inclusione. And now the floor to Samantha Armani.
Good morning, and thank you, Diana. I'm very happy to stay here, and I'm very happy to share my ideas with you. And let me introduce my idea with this consideration. I have been working in the University of Genoa for 16 years. During this time, I have also working in educational context and in school. This experience were and there are very important to able to think about new strategies in order to educate and teach. I've observed some problematic situation and I developed studies and some researches. I want to share with you some of my thoughts. Can I share my screen, Diana?
Yes, for sure.
Okay. Wait a moment, please. You can see?
Not yet.
No.
Condividi contenuto.
Sì, però dalla finestra non mi dà, cioè mi dà diverse opzioni. Vediamo se quella è corretta. No, questa è un'altra cosa. Aspetta, non so che cosa è andato a prendere. Torno indietro.
Si sta caricando le fiabe. Hai preso una mia cosa.
Credo di aver... Sì, non so come... In realtà... Ok. Ora si dovrebbe vedere.
Sì. Fai F5 o qualcosa, diciamo che si vede su schermo interno, di intero.
Dovrebbe vedersi ora. F5. Si dovrebbe vedere, vediamo se allargando così. Ok. Si vede bene?
Sì.
Ok. First of all, the education relationships are unique because every teacher and every child are different. In these relationships, there are words and plurality to be discovered. Lopresti asserts that behind every action there is a thought. So now we need a common language to talk about some intercultural aspects of education. Bertolini analyzes two concepts very important for our thinking: marginality and vulnerability. Marginality, this is a human condition to near to the order of social life. As a consequence, Bertolini says, a man or a woman doesn't feel to be important for other people. This is a situation very difficult about social, emotional, and educational relations, in particular for children and teenagers. In his definition, Bertolini pays attention on pain caused by these problems. And we can see vulnerability in this slide. Bertolini says that a vulnerable person can be injured both physically and psychologically. For example, a child is vulnerable because he or she is exposed to bad conditionings. But where is vulnerability? Who is vulnerability? Who is in a vulnerable situation? A child, a woman, an old man, a patient, a migrant. For example, we can see this link. I share the link. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. The second image here. Pedagogia pedagogica is an Italian pedagogical periodical. In June 2007, topic is vulnerability. And on this image, the title is Vulnerable to whom? Sorry, you can see young man wants to her an answer. Who is vulnerable? This image is explicative, is very important to think about vulnerability, because there are a lot of prejudice and stereotypes. So I like to share with you this image for our thinking. Okay, let's go back to the slide. Dovrebbe essere questo, speriamo di non... No, Diana, scusami. Diana, I'm sorry because I don't know, but my my presentation don't.
Ok. Forse devi fare, condividi contenuto, presentazione e prendere la tua.
Sono su PowerPoint, ma non vedo la presentazione, vedo solo educazione interculturale, quindi non è facile trovarlo. Ok. So the vulnerability is a part of us vulnerable situation can happen in every life for a specific period, for example, a failure in work or in love. If a person has a help network composed by parents, friends, sisters, partner, he or she will pass to vulnerable situation. But often complexity of life creates a set of problems that makes it difficult to return in a good condition. Then a lot of people can pass their vulnerable situation. There are problems that get complicated and caregivers aren't able to help them. Sorry? Okay. Above all, children and teenagers risk marginality without the chance to grow in peaceful framework or context. It's very important to find didactic and educational strategies that can create support. But how we think new methodologies? Often through lives overtakes imagination, and the problems of children, of teenagers, and of their families are very big, strong, and sometimes shocking. We are facing with many problems and multiple vulnerabilities. For example, there are children with parents increases for social problems or deviance issues, in economic crisis, teenagers left alone. In other words, there are broken families. And in this situation, we can find also migrant students. At school, we can observe that for vulnerable students, there are problems about learning, but we find also difficulties on relational competencies. It's important to take into account the skills useful for being in the world. It seems like something obvious, but it requires learning to a series of skills that allows you to talk with other people, to know them, to spend moments together, to share experiences, to mediate conflicts. In other words, you can create social and emotional relationships. Teachers and educators need more pieces of information to analyze ongoing situation and then to understand their real educational needs. Migrations in Italy. In 2007 in Italy, migrants were over 3 million. And you can see in 2013, number of immigrant people over 4 million, with incidence of this percent. At the beginning of 2020, they were over 5 million. In Italian school, the situation is there. In the 2013 and 2014 school year, there are 9 migrants every 100 students. Instead, in the 2018 and 2019 school year, there are 10 migrants every 100 students. The incidence continues to increase. The regularity of the school path is one of the dimensions of the analysis through which to evaluate the educational and social integration of students of migrant origin. The delay of students with not Italian citizenship is often the result of insertions. At the first access to Italian school system in classes lower than those corresponding to the age of the birth, to which are added along the way that non-admissions to the next school. Despite the improvements, the distance between Italian students and migration one remained important, above all in secondary school. This is an important aspect. So, you can. The Italian school accepted the challenge, but there is still a lot to do. As you know, Italy is a country that hosted migration only since 1990, while other countries, for example France and Germany, had welcomed foreign people for many years before. At macro level, the development of politics of migration, and at micro level, the creation of relationships, also educational, between people are different. Italy had to reinvent himself from country of emigration to country of immigration. Italian educational legislation changed. In these slides, there are historical examples. First of all, primary school programs. In 1985. Then didactic guidelines for kindergarten in 1991. And intercultural dialogue and democratic cohabitation planning commitment of school, 1994. First document, primary school programs, is even previous the beginning of immigration in Italy. In this document, we can find some recommendations about intercultural dialogue through a global perspective. Recently, there are a lot of documents. The most important are national guidelines and the national guidelines and new scenarios. Now, there are projects and activities about migrants and about intercultural education almost in every school. In the last test years, there are more courses for teachers to learn how to include migrants in school. In university, intercultural education is a course, but it's necessary in study plan for future teachers only about from 10 years ago. Before intercultural education, this course was optional. So a lot of teachers had no appropriate skills for intercultural education. Then there were and there are a lot of professional courses for teachers and they teach to improve intercultural competencies in school. A lot of teachers take to these courses, but not all. So the situation in school is not the same everywhere. Teacher training is a point to still be improved. Let's go back to analyze the needs of students. Over the years, the needs of immigrant students have partially varied, depending on they belong to the first or the second generation of immigrants. In 27 and the 28 school year, it was introduced. The important distinction was children. This distinction specifies that there are two types of students with different educational needs. In the first group doesn't speak the Italian. We will teach our language when they arrived in classroom. For the second generation, the Italian language could be a problem, could not be a problem, but there are other risks, like being suspended between the different values of two different cultures. For example, an Indian young girl is 19 years old. She lives in Italy from she was born. She could want to study in university like their Italian friends, or she could want to get married with a boy chosen by their parents. It's a choice of life, very important and very difficult for her. This is an example. In an intercultural perspective, some needs remain unchanged, to be valued for their different habits, to create friendship, to help for work of their parents, to support in learning, to have intercultural class and their relationships, in other words, to stay in inclusive class and society. I mean, being an immigration doesn't necessarily mean work or social problems, but migration requires a lot of resources and more people can be ready. This can be the cause of disadvantages and distress. Often the multiple vulnerabilities belong to migration, and this problem appears also in children or teenagers, and as a consequence in class. In Italian school, students with a lot of vulnerabilities, including problems or issues from migration, can be defined bisogni educativi speciali, BES, special educational needs. I will describe didactical and educational strategies with BES later. My argument develops also in this way. Oh, sorry, there is a mistake because, okay, the right slide is here. I'm sorry. My argument develops also in this way. In our varied societies, in our class, we can analyze other difficult situations, other vulnerable situation like disability. This condition involves a lot of vulnerabilities, and often parents can't be ready to meet all needs. In particular, vulnerable families often are in crisis because to care of a disabled child is very demanding. Often parents haven't the knowledge and competences to help him or her, and they learn new strategies alone. Family must ask help, and often there are few assistances. The school is the main interlocutor with family for education and learning of disabled child. In Italy for a long time there weren't differential school for disabled. We work to inclusion in a unique class, in a unique school. There isn't selection. Every child is a student that follows an educational way in the same school. There is a specialized teacher called insegnante di sostegno, like support teacher, that follows the learning of disabled pupils, but this teacher is for all the class, for all the children. He or she is a part of group of teachers for a specific class, not child. This teacher works in compromises with another teacher to support every pupils and isn't able to learn, in particular disabled student. It's necessary consider another very important element. Disabilities are perceived and interpreted by families on the basis of their origin culture. It's possible that some cultures attribute disability to different causes. I mean that a different explanation of disability can describe another way to live a disability. This is a very important aspect that teachers or educators must know when they work with migrants and their families. There is a new multiple vulnerability situation. To create an inclusive school and society, we must consider every aspect of migrants' life. Like this, the agreement with school and family found on reciprocally trust and knowledge for wellness of children or teenagers, they continue to dialogue in every moment and level of school. So, in Italian school, teachers work in more different levels because the class is composed by more children. Every has personal needs for own education. Individual learning can develop only there are specific plans to work. Tools and strategies allow to define individual way to education for students with multiple vulnerabilities like migrants and or migrated disabilities. At the beginning of the school year, teachers prepare a way of learning by specific tools of educational and didactic planning. They write PDP, in Italian Piano Didattico Personalizzato, Personalized Didactic Plan, for students defined best or for children with specific learning disorders. And teacher write PEI, Piano Educativo Individualizzato, Individual Educational Plan for Disabilities. Teachers project every didactic and educational activities that develop skills for children. In this document, teacher writes a description of pupil problems and then they project the strategies. In these plans, teachers can choose compensative tools, for example, to use calculator during the lesson of maths, and dispensative measures like more time for written tests. It's a work very important and of course. Teachers take care of all their students. Multicultural elements can be considered to create an inclusive class. In class, a teacher can work for special educational needs of immigration pupils. In some situations, it could be necessary other professionals like cultural linguistic mediators. Teacher project a specific way to teach Italian with supplementary activities for migrants of the first generation. Moreover, they can work in a global perspective, regardless of the presence in class of migrants, because consider diversity, the different of their children, as treasures. Teachers implement intercultural activity for all class to create inclusion and to develop an approach where thoughts are moving. This approach was to improve inclusion through active listening, dialogue against the prejudice. In Italian class, a lot of methodologies are used, like cooperative learning, flipped classroom, learning by peer-to-peer, role-playing, and so on. Teachers can choose, but the main objective is an intercultural perspective that appears in every lesson, every day. The intercultural approach must be experienced daily. It isn't necessary only few lessons about multicultural society, but it's very important to encourage the formamentis for inclusion and intercultural. The intercultural perspective is the way to create inclusion in class, where there are a lot of vulnerabilities conditions. Okay, thank you. This is my email for questions. You can write me. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Samantha. Thank you. Вопросы?
Да, можно.
Можно.
Thank you very much, Samantha. I have a question. Maybe it will seem very rude, but still I would like to ask it. There is a lot of information in our media, Ukrainian media, about situation in schools in France, for instance, when Muslim population does not want to adopt the French culture and live by French non-religious culture, but try to stick to their own. And there are conflicts like girls wearing hijab or women wearing paranjai in the streets. What is the situation in Italian schools? Do you have the same problem, and how do schools treat it when, for instance, instead of integration and adaptation, children or their parents insist that they will stick to their own traditions and do things their own way and not adapt to Italian culture?
Okay. In Italian school, the religious situation, I think, is easier because there aren't problems like France. We have a situation more easy, I think. Family are respect the religions of other families, and we can dialogue with the parents and with the children about religion, but there aren't problems like France.
And if I may add, there is a question also about the policy of integrations. Let's say that France has made some mistakes at the beginning, because as you see, Beaulieu and also other things, Paris, no, they have made like a ghettoizations. There are streets, quarters with the immigrants. In Italy, no. In Italy, the peoples are around the city, so for this reason, probably Italy is better. And the situation also in the Italian schools is better than in the French one.
Thank you.
Yes, Italian people share their life with immigrants in the same streets, in the same quarters. And this is very important to dialogue, to create an inclusive society.
May I ask, in which way do you measure this level of inclusion, this level of acceptance of diversity, the level of tolerance? Have you provided any research in the focus of values as basic foundations of human patterns of behavior?
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of resources about prejudice and about the conflicts. But we see in the daily life every day, we measure there aren't a big conflicts between migrants and Italian people. Maybe Italian people remember a few the experience of migration of their grandfathers in the century, in the past century, maybe.
Yesterday I asked Professor Parmigiano about level of aggression inside class communities, about measurements of this level. As we could notice from his speech, he told us about his younger son, which is absolutely quiet, and he was inviting child with disabilities to in the common game. So as for me, it's a good sign, normal behavior. And also he told us about his first experience and even shock when he first time met in the end of 19th, as far as I remember, the person with disabilities. Almost the same situation was in our country, but it's interesting. No, it's I tried to explain yesterday, and maybe you can help me in this matter. Youth aggression, I mean teens aggression, teenagers aggression. It's normal. It's a biological mechanism of humans, not only humans, all living beings' behavior when use parts of speci, I mean biological speci, playing in walking and training their walking skills. It's walking training their biological mechanism. This situation with bullying in Italian schools, lower, greater which factors are key factors for this level? I mean, inside class communities or inside school communities. More external factors like pandemic crisis, or maybe internal reasons, way of teaching, inclusion, quantity of persons in disability inside class community. Unfortunately, Anna Fuzova, unfortunately, she is not present here at Maria Sheremet because of very important event here at our Faculty of Inclusive and Special Education. There are, so it's a very sad, and because of these problems, because this technical okay, you know, but they will see the record of this day, and thank you very much for your presentation. But could you please say just now a few words for me, because we also we're working on the problem of social cohesion of educational communities, in educational communities, and society in general.
Okay. In Italy, we have worked against bullying with many projects by Ministry of School of Instruction, and special pedagogy and intercultural education are two aspects many different. In these years, in the last years, we can work in both the two contexts, and we can work to inclusion for all, for every special educational needs. The pandemic situation is very difficult for teenagers in particular. I think the situation delicate, and we must work against teenagers alone, because it's a very difficult situation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And one more, if you would mind, one more question. When we try to, there is a Goethe Institute, like British Council in the sphere of promoting English culture, Goethe Institute promoting German culture, many initiatives helping to increase intercultural competence development. And I know, and also UNDP projects, they also in Ukraine supported this problem, you know, not migrant, but internal migrants. We call them internally displaced persons, IDPs, because of war conflict in the east of Ukraine. So, and I know, and personally I participated in this project, and we use some technologies of nonviolence communication, mediation, facilitation, but also some quite new, maybe only for Ukraine, social cultural technologies as like playback theater. If you know our forum theater, there are many different titles of this sort of gamification and sort of interesting games to prevent and to solve many intercultural conflicts. What kind of technologies, what kind of techniques are innovative in Italy? What can you say about this?
Okay. There are many projects and forums. We can use social media. for teenagers. And there was an important project like Smonta il bullo. I asked Diana an help to smonta il bullo, come lo possiamo tradurre? Diana? She doesn't hear. Smonta il bullo is break, but don't break it not in negative
Это
sense.
как бы устранить буллизм, устранить, то есть разделить его на кусочки, то есть... То есть
Смальта, это как смальта, это как мозаика, разбить на
да,
кусочки.
вот так размить вот где-то так.
In this is there are in Smonta il bullo there are piattaforma, there are a lot of books, films, and a lot of materials about against the bullyism, and it's very important for a teacher and the child or teenager.
Thank you. Grazie mille, grazie.
You're
Smonta il bullo, interesting.
Smonta il bullo.
Yes.
You can see in internet. Smonta il bullo.
Okay. Could you please write in the chat the correct spelling?
Of course.
I'll find. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay, if no more questions, I will say thanks to
Only
Samantha.
one ask to switch on the first slide if it's not difficult for you, because for print screen for me right now, if could you please do me a favor, please, with the title. Diana, excuse me.
It's okay. Vuole la prima slide della tua presentazione così fa lo screenshot.
Sì. Posso condividere a
Vediamo
questo punto?
se...
Vediamo se riesco a condividere quello giusto.
Смотрите в камеру, дорогие коллеги.
Ok.
Елена Михайловна, камеру, да, пожалуйста, спасибо. Ой, класс.
Ci riesci?
Okay. It's very slow. Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's for my report about study visit. I always first slide and speaker. Thank you.
Introduce the next speech. You will have a discussions about the empowerment of women with disability through international collaborations and EU projects. Here we have Cinzia Leone, that is a coordinator of Horizon 2020 Rise Women with Disability and Social Engagement, and she will speak instead of their group that is done by Rita Bencivenga and Anna Siri. So the floor to Cinzia Leone.
Hello everyone, so I'm Cinzia Leone, I'm from the University of Genoa, and I will introduce to you the theme that has been already said, and it's related to my project, and the title is Rise Women with Disabilities, but I will explain more. So I prepared a presentation and I will share my screen just in few seconds, and I have also a short video about the project. I'd like to begin with the video, even if naturally you'll not you will have the chance to understand more after my speech naturally. So I'm going to to share my screen. Okay, this one.
Anche audio computer, così si sente l'audio.
Okay, so I think you see my second screen, and
yes,
it will last only 2 minutes. Then please enjoy. Yes, I can. Okay, so now I will begin with my presentation, and I think that among the people you already saw Professor Cristina Candito. She spoke just a while before me. As she said, she participated into the project with us. So the title of my presentation today is the empowerment of women with disabilities through international collaboration in EU projects. And I'd like to introduce the theme of EU project for the empowerment of women with disabilities and disabilities in general. And this is my experience that we did with our, that I did and we did with our project RiseWise. The authors of the present, oh, just a moment, sorry. I had a crash, I don't know why, with my presentation. No. Oh, sorry. I don't know what happened. Sorry, I will go through again the presentation.
Maybe you'd better change the window. Share another screen. Yes, okay, it's everything. Everything is fine. Don't worry.
Yeah, I know. I know how to proceed, but the system was not responding to me. So the persons who prepared this presentation and who participated into the project are the three names that you see here. And the first one, it's me, and I was the coordinator of the project. But I'm cooperating with other people from the university, and they are Rita Bencivenga and Anna Siri. You can read there only a very, very short profile of them. RiseWise was a project with 4.5 years of duration, with a total funding of that you see there, and a number of partners from 16 to 18, because the project was long, and someone left, someone was put in, and so on, as it's typical for European projects. They were from 7 countries. The kind of project was a RISE one, and it was based on mobility and on physical exchange of persons, doing activities, doing research. As you can see, these kind of projects are very rare, were very rare within the H2020 family, and there are different reasons for this that naturally I cannot analyze here, but I'd like to underline the fact that we were above a threshold for the number of partners involved, and also for the funding. So it was a very wide project, and with a very wide partnership. Here you have a resume of the partnership, and it was composed half by private entities and half by universities or academies. We went through from Italy to Turkey, Slovenia to Spain, and so on. So you can see that we were very, very wide and different. In Italy, so the reason why we chose the topic is that, as we know, disability has a very is a very important theme to touch with our research. And for example, in Italy, we have 4.5 million, around 4.5 million of persons with disability, and the most part of them are women. They live in the south. They work very. They have few chances to access to work. In particular, if they are more aged. In Italy, women with disabilities, this is our group, our observation. Women with disabilities represent the 7% of the total Italian female population. They represent the 70% of the people living in institutions. So they are the most part of elderly people here in Italy are represented by women. Their average age is lower than the normal average age, and for the most part of women in particular, it's important to observe the fact that they live alone for more than 1/3. Here I report some data about education and disability in Italy, and I'd like to say that education was one of the environment or the theme analyzed by RiseWise, and I will explain later on. In the school year, four school years ago, the number of students with a disability were around 250,000. They are increasing in the number, but even if our ministry says that they are increasing in the numbers of, you can see here that that students with disability from 2008 to 2017 has decreased. Here again, we can also put some reflections on this, but maybe this is not my specific topic today. The theoretical framework of our project is related to the fact that we interpreted disability in evolving from the social model, and we affirmed the fact that disability is not only a medical situation of the person, and is not the person self. So here you can see our evolution, how to say evolution in the project, even if you know that the research project should be very focused, very brief, and so on. But this is what was at the basis of our work. So we evolved from a social approach, a social model approach, going through right model, and we affirmed during the whole duration of the project, we affirmed the fact that disability is the impairment, is a deficit, but it's not the person self. Here you have our methodological and operational scheme. In the round parts, you see that we chose 5 environments to be observed, because we thought that the holistic approach was the winning one, because not only to win the project and so to get the project, to get the money, but also to approach to the life of a person with disability, and in particular to a woman of a disability, to approach her life with a very holistic approach, to express that the life of a person is not only one aspect. And in particular, we did not put the highest attention to the health domain, because as we will see, the most part, and there are many projects and researches, publications, and so on, only focused on health. Just to say that disability is a health issue, but for us it was not so. Here you can see, for the rest, you can see the scheme of the project and the results that we produced. RiseWise was deployed as an open innovation project where every part of the world can do their work self. So we applied this triangle interpretation of the research, very appreciated and affirmed also by the EC now, and where society, innovation, and policy work together for one goal, and in our case it was the goal of the women with disabilities. The novelties, so the new aspects of the project were related to several approaches. The first one is the theoretical approach, as I already explained. So not specifically medical aspects, the observation of daily life environments, and the use of an extensive context, and this holistic approach. Another aspect was related to the methodological approach. As far as we know, and it's still so, I can say that RiseWise was the first research project financed by the EU that focused on women with disability as protagonists of the project itself, and not as the object of a study, of an analysis, or of a research. And the other strong features of the RISE-WISE project was the mandatory characteristics of this kind of project, that are cooperation public-private, cooperation academic and non-academic. We were deemed to act so because of the characteristics of the RISE projects, and intersectoral and international exchanges. As said before, I went through the Cordis site of the Horizon 2020 project. This is a site with containing all the Horizon 2020 funded projects from the beginning up to the end. And I found out that there were only around 600 projects with the disability as a term. I searched for the term in the description, in the title, or in the teaser, and the large majority of these were around medicine, health, ICT, assistive technology, and so on. And when the disability was treated, it was for the most part related to aging or intellectual disability, such as autism, but also about Alzheimer's disease and other diseases related to aging. So there was none of them was explicitly dedicated to women with disability. Another list of ingredients of RISE-WISE was that one related to an intersectional approach and the evolution from the social model, the embedding of a wide variety of disciplines, such as Cristina Candido illustrated to us before, because she's from the architectural domain, but we had also persons arising from the law domain, sociology, but also engineering and medicine, and so on. The intercultural dialogue, because as you can remember, the partnership was composed by people from Turkey as well from Sweden. So you can imagine the intercultural dialogue that we had, and the specific attention to gender and gender balance in every action we did. Because we had the project focused on women, but not done or implemented only by women, for women. So we used the RISE-WISE as a driver for empowerment and change. So another important aspect was that we were involving also our activity involved particular in travels, and visits. We had many persons traveling for our project and doing research. We had a number around 160 people traveling for RISE-WISE, and another person from our university was also participating today. He is Alessandro Meloni, and I thank him for his work done for our project and for his participation, naturally. And we organized conferences, events, and many. Maybe you saw some photos in the video of these events, and you will see something also and in the end of my presentation. And we had also sustainability and durability vision, because as it's typical for European projects. So we were paid, we were hired by the European Commission to do a work, and we did. But we thought that this work should not end with the project, but the project can and should be used as the beginning as the start of a change, of something else, something coming over and after. And one of the winning ingredient of our project was that there was a wide number of persons from non-academic sector, and they were not non-researchers. as said, we had higher numbers in every actions, and it was a very joyful project, and I'm very proud of having had the chance of being the coordinator. So, and we will use this RiseWise project as a drive for empowerment and change. And for example, also within our university, we introduced, thanks to cooperation with the other bodies, with the different bodies of our university, we introduced changes within our university thanks to RiseWise. So, which are the embedded values of the project? In particular, I think that the cooperation with the external entities, external to the university, was a winning factor and a very positive factor. So, and we had also a close relationship with the municipalities, local and national public authorities, the Commission, European Commission, for example. They used one of our videos to show the results of the project, and they let this video be seen within the buildings of the European Commission for 6 months. So we were very proud for this, and also a transversal expertise of the project staff, because we were not, as said, concentrated only to a topic, only to a domain. We were not only from academic, we were not only from NGOs and so on. And the results, now you will see some photos, and then I'll be at your disposal for questions or other suggestions or comments that you will do after my speech. But in particular, the results are very important to me. We had a conference, a workshop, discussing, for example, ableism in academia. And this is thanks to RiseWise. So we had a long list of publications and dissemination communication events and activities. We did policy influence. It was not only a definition, it was a reality. And we have also now going within our university, the University of Genoa, new projects as a follow-up. And here you can see the list of our projects. Now some photos. I was invited to an audition at the Italian Parliament in October 2017 to speak about women and job market. Then we had and we performed different sensibilization campaigns for different topics. And we had a workshop. We visited, also physically visited when it was possible, but we all hope that it would be possible again in the next future. We visited different NGOs and other organizations working with disability. We organized also a wide workshop related to sport and disability. And then you can see other initiatives that I will not list for you, because I don't like to be too long for my presentation, because I'd like to speak with you. And but you can see the variety of our actions. And then we had the final event. It was the JAM event, where people with disabilities and people from the project and also outside the project had the final meeting. We'd like to go ahead, to go on with our project. Now you can see, for example, on the left, you can see people from Turkey. So and then people from Sweden. So you can see that, and you can also imagine how flourish and how positive was the confrontation, but also how difficult it was, because for example, women with disabilities from Turkey, they experience a so high level of difficulties, even to travel, to come to our meetings, that we cannot, so we could imagine, but we cannot expect. And so that's it. My presentation is very brief because I'd like now to give you the floor and I'm here for you for questions. And thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Could you please do not switch it off because some questions about your slides.
Oh, okay, sorry. Maybe I just did, but I will.
Yes. First of all, okay. It's not really important. So, interesting triangle. Normally, society is down. It's down, like, and at your triangle, society in the top. Interesting for me, rise-wise, I can feel as, but could you please explain us the idea of the title? Why? Women in social environment, maybe rise-wise to rise up with wisdom on. Interesting. It's very interesting. Very good title. Multi-senses and emotional reaction into this title. It's a good it's good already. It's a good beginning. Oh, and why I asked you about slides? Changing social model, or it was one of them. It's interesting for me. Enhancing social model, or
so you know that at the beginning of the history, so it's a very recent history of the disability studies. The approach was that one related to health and to medical, biological.
Medical aspects of inclusion. Yes.
Yeah, sorry, I was hearing something. But we put to our basis the disability studies from the Anglo-Saxon world, which had their center in the UK, in Leeds, and there were a school founded by Paul Hunt in particular, and then Mike Oliver and Colin Barnes, Len Barton, they joined this school, and it was related to the social interpretation of the disability. So they said at the beginning that people are disabled by society. So you can see here in the second here. The first affirmation was that disability does not exist, but it's only a construction from the society. So I'm what I am, I'm so, and the society considers me as disabled. So I try to read. Then the evolution of the thought, as it's typical for the intellectual activity and also for the social activity of the people working on this topic, they evolved and went through other affirmation related to disability. So they didn't stick to the first affirmation related to the fact that disability was a social construct thing, but they admitted, so yes, I have an impairment, but the society let me be a disabled. So the evolution was this one. Thomas Shakespeare evolved the thought. People are disabled by society and by their bodies. So the body is important because, for example, if I don't have an arm, so I don't have an arm. So the society would treat me not differently. So my impairment should not be a stigma, a thing to where to base the difference. Then in the years, this thought was evolved also by other scholars, and we all know, maybe I don't know if you already came across a work done by Theresia de Gener. She's from Germany. She's affirming that people with disabilities are disabled by society and by their bodies. But the most important thing to affirm is that they have rights. So they should be citizens like the others. So now, naturally, I cut many passages not to be too long in my explanation, but we went through this course, this scholars' affirmation to affirm within our project the idea of a disability, yes, real, present, naturally important for the people who have a disability, but but the disability should not force the lives of people with disability. You saw a photograph, maybe, I don't know, it was maybe in the, sorry.
In the video.
Yeah, in the video. There is one person from Slovenia. She's in the wheelchair. She has a very severe disease, and she's a very young woman, but she's a very strong one, and she's always affirming this. So I'm not my disease, I'm not my body, I have my rights. And she was the first, in Slovenia there is a law introduced only 2 years ago, reinforced before, but introduced only 2 years ago, and she was affirming that the people with disability have the chance to choose who is the accompanying person. So because, for example, in our case in Italy, we take as granted the fact that the mother, or I don't know, the family are the people who will take care of the person with disability. But in Slovenia, there is a law affirming that the person with disability would choose who is the accompanying person, the person taking care. And the state, so the government, will give money for this. So I think it's a very important one.
Absolutely.
So,
yes. Mm-hmm.
And about the triangle, yes, for us, I took this photo from another presentation, and as you can see, but I really think that society should be in the upper part of the triangle, because also in the academic world, the dialogue must be always alive, and how to say, so I think that staying closed in our ivory tower, we will not change everything, and we will not interact with the people really interested with for example, in our studies or in our ideas and so on.
Thank you. Have you conducted any research on the level of tolerance to women to disabilities, or level of real or declared inclusion values in educational communities of universities participants or not?
Yes, so there were, as said, there were a wide variety of people participating into the project, and we also faced this particular aspect, but not in specific. So, for example, from Madrid, the university participating into the project was the UCM, Universitat Complutense de Madrid. They were also doing some research about this, and also in the Middle East Technical University of Ankara in Turkey, but not in specific.
Thank you. And rice-wise, metaphoric rice-wise, metaphoric underground, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was something like a joke. As I don't know if you ever wrote a European project, but so you always have to find the right one acronym. RISE-wise, the acronym so came. I don't know how to. We found out this acronym. We were together working for the European Commission. We were in Brussels during one of the rare pause, and we were in the coffee room, and we were together with the partners of the project. So we invented this acronym because RISE is the kind of project. The name RISE is the name of the kind of project, of the family of the project within Horizon 2020.
And
WISE stands for women with women with disabilities in social engagement. But we also use the meaning of the term RISE. So RISE, wise. So, and to be wise and to rise. So it's something like a joke, but it worked.
Yes, it works. It works. I feel it. The first part was interesting for me because once I deciphered was women with disability in social engagement and environment. Yes, but what's RISE? No, interesting because I wrote European projects. I know you can say EVDISD, EU values of diversity, of inclusion, and for sustainable development. No, normally we use first letter. Yeah, and trying to combine them. MAFCA was my favorite one because my MAFCA was management by values approach, etc. But MAFCA it's also Ukrainian national mystic woman. Like living in the forest, in the lakes. But it's mystic and very strong and changing. Magic. Yeah, But we'll do something.
So when you are drafting a project, so maybe the acronym is not so important, but in case of success, it will be. So in our case, it was not me who invented this acronym, and therefore I can say that I'm very proud of it. And also the project, the name RISE from the European Commission stands from Research and Innovation Staff Exchange. So it's an acronym, but we used it differently.
Great, thanks. And participants from Spain, Turkey, Sweden, Italy, consortium of this project. Thanks. Austria.
Yeah, so it was at the beginning we were only 6, and then we put also Slovenia in because we found out that there was a very, as I said, they are very, very active towards disability, and the University of Ljubljana was the partner with an association related to disability. It was an NGO. And we put Slovenia in after I came across, I met the professor from University of Ljubljana, and she was and is very active in general for the rights of persons, of disadvantaged persons. So, the other person who I met was that one active for the rights of people with disability, and she was also the candidate for the presidency of Slovenia. You can imagine. So one photo of the candidates was done with people standing, and the only one sitting was her. So it was very, very impressive, because the man stands, and she was behind because on the wheelchair. So it was very, very impressive. But she continued. She kept on fighting, and she kept on. Yeah.
Wish her a lot of success. Yeah, and brilliant project.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question, please?
For sure.
I agree that this is a brilliant project, and we see a lot of practical results. But because this is a Horizon project, as far as I understand, there should be also research outputs, right? And I would like to ask you very briefly, this is for us to understand how to draft a research project. In this case, what were the research outputs of your project that you demonstrated to the Commission as research?
Yeah, so the Commission, as you can imagine, asked us for the list of publications. So, and we had it. The research outputs were very wide. And they were related to, for example, application within engineering domain for ICT and ICT design, for example. And we had a list of publications for this. Then the other illustrated by Cristina Candido and Alessandro Meloni before. So a part of this was also, and I thank you them again for their work. And they were also publications in this domain. Then we published also several books or chapters of books related to disability and current interpretations of them. We had also focus groups. Then we get through sociological aspects, sociological analysis of also qualitative activities, for example, related to persons with multiple sclerosis, because it was one of the associations within our project. It was the largest Italian associations of persons with multiple sclerosis. And these are, so maybe I don't like to forget anything, but the principal, the particular ones, the results were this one related to disseminations. Then we tried and we proposed also the introduction of new research lines within our universities. As already said, it's not so easy to change, for example, a set of disciplines, a set of courses within our universities, but we are planning, for example, to introduce new disciplines related to inclusion, equality, diversity, and this should be offered to all our students. We are planning for example, within our university, in particular for the doctoral students, but also for the other students, to offer them a transversal course related to equality, diversity, and inclusion, and including also the theme of disability, not only it, but also it. So, for example, gender issues, but also inclusion and diversity in general. You know that also at the European level, there is a request for a major offer by side of our university for a theme related to transversal skills, and this is where we can act. We think so. We are working on this. So both dissemination and real activities and the real influence within our courses and our research topics.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. It is really impressive.
Thank you.
May I ask again?
Yeah, for sure. I'm here for you.
Because as I told you, actually our study visit, there are here two teams and teams of two Jean Monnet projects, and the main event is a study visit for Jean Monnet Project EVDISD, EU Values of Diversity and Inclusion for Sustainable Development, and Social and Cultural Aspects of European Studies, SCAES, Jean Monnet Chair. We are accompanying. We combine these two events because of online format and because we win. Okay, we've got two Jean Monnet projects this year. Yes, and as you know, for Jean Monnet Project. It's not obligatory to implement any educational courses, but I'd like to think maybe on the next project, maybe for the next mutual project between University of Genoa and our universities, not only National Pedagogical University, maybe to construct this interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary and multinational course, maybe a double master program, and diversity and inclusion in general sense, because our team is multidisciplinary, from agrarian university and life sciences to pedagogical universities and high pedagogical institution under the Academy of Pedagogical Sciences of Ukraine. So it will be very interesting, because my understanding of inclusion absolutely equal to yours. First is social inclusion, and I mean social inclusion even in your sense, when society disable its members. And as for me, another important question, why I'm inspired by your project, but to be honest, I don't like a gender-oriented project. I'd like to, I prefer a really holistic approach, but I subscribe the importance, the view of the importance of your project, because for me, women with disabilities is like extremum. It's the most critical point. As a physicist, I love models and I love researchers when we're concerning on extremum. It's easier to find solution when you're researching the critical points. And from my point of view, society, Eastern, more Western, less, but our societies, I mean modern societies and even ancient societies, disabled women more painful and stronger than, for example, men. Because this model of physical excellence, beauty, which is mostly obligatory for women, it's a pressure. It's really social pressure, and it's crucial, really.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. So we were asked for the reason why the limitation of the group of persons with disabilities, and the reason why we chose women was that numbers said that they are more discriminated, so they have more problems in the life. But me too. I don't like to have projects only focused or done by, for example, women or men. So, and one of the reasons why I said that we were very gender focused,
oriented and keeping the gender balance.
Yeah, because I think that even if when we speak of gender, we know that everyone will think of oh yeah, you are a woman, so you speak of gender. So it's naturally, because if you are a woman, you can speak of gender, but it's not so. So, and my point of view is that gender balance should be important everywhere. So even in the other projects that we are developing, they are not gender focused, but I'm always recalling the attention of everyone on the gender balance, because if we are organizing, for example, one thing about ICT, for sure we will see the most part of men participating. It's natural. So there are also project calls related to this, so to how to enhance the participation in the panels by side of women. So there are specific projects for this. So it's an obvious problem, but we will not solve it by gendering saying this term, using this term is in a negative way. So I think that the gender should be important everywhere. So, and for example, in my case, I'm doing also lessons for doctorate students of our university, from science, from engineering, from robotics, so I don't know from what. And I'm always repeating that gender is important for their development, their personal development, and also for their professional development. Because if you do not consider gender, for example, in designing a robot, maybe you will not have success. So it's a very an objective thing. And I think also that the future of our projects and also of our university is the dialogue among disciplines. So the dialogue among sciences. And RiseWise affirmed this, and we were very positive. At the beginning, we had, for example, engineering or engineers, or I don't know, sociologists. They asked me why they are here. So, for example, a sociologist asked me why there is an engineer here. It's not a project related to engineering. So, and the contrary. But in the end, after 4.5 years, we were together, we worked together, and we were very happy for this.
Thank you. Agree, absolutely.
Okay, if no more questions, or there are some questions here. No more questions. So thank you really very much, Cinzia, for showing us your great experience.
So I'd like to thank you for your invitation. So and naturally, I'm at your disposal for further cooperation in the future. Who knows?
Yes, we will. Don't worry. We will contact you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, and great success and sustainability of your project. And we would like to participate in this project to improve your sustainability and to join and to your mission. Yeah, it's really interesting. If you wouldn't mind, via Diana, I will contact you. Maybe with we'll organize a separate meeting for contacts. Yeah, because I feel I can't help feeling strong. My intuition says that I can see many ways of our mutual cooperation in this way of diversity in general, understanding and inclusion, and advocacy of this understanding. Yeah.
Thank you.
Changing
Thank you again.
mindsets. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Grazie, ciao. And now I will give the floor for our last interventions, but really important, like others, to Professor Mirella Zanobini. As you remember, as I told at our first day, that Professor Mirella Zanobini is a delegate of rector for the University Inclusion of Students with Disabilities and Specific Learning Disorders. And also she teaches psychology of disability. You remember also yesterday the PhD students taught to you that Mirella is their rock on their doctoral thesis. Mirella, ci sei?
Yes.
Ciao.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much to invite me in this very interesting conference, and thank you to all participants. And I will begin my speech for what concerns the teaching of disability psychology at university. And then the second part will be about the inclusion of students with disability and with specific learning disorders at ONIGE. In this first part of my speech, I will try to answer some questions. Where teaching of disability at university, why, how, and how to teach and study atypical development. For sure, disability psychology is not the only discipline who speak about disability. There are a lot of related disciplines